What's going on, everybody? B. Scott here with you on today's show. We got your waiver wire heading into week number 18. Week 18 is a little different. Many of you've already won your championships. And some of you, if you're looking at this video, you're obviously looking for information because you're still hoping to get there. So I'm going to give you some guys that I like on the waiver this week, heading into the last and final week of the NFL season. So keep it locked and loaded right here at the first 4 downs. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. As I mentioned in the preview, we're going to be going through the waiver wire heading into week 18. Like I mentioned, many of you, probably the season is over and you're just going to enjoy football for the last week that it is. Obviously, some games are irrelevant, some are very meaningful, and we're going to get to that, especially when it comes to picking out the players on the waiver wire if you're still looking for that championship for week 18. Maybe you play in 2-week leagues where they have playoffs run for 2 weeks, or maybe your championship week is in week 18, which many of us don't agree, but hey, that's up to you. So let's start with the waiver wire. Before we get to today's content, don't forget, like the video, subscribe, share, thumb, bell, and then comment. If you want to hear about a player or if you want to hear more information about any fantasy related questions, we're going to have all your off-season stuff. We're going to have all the rankings. We're going to have some awards for the end of the season. We're going to be talking about just everything, highs and lows of the fantasy football season coming up. So let's dive to the waiver wire. First off, let's start at the quarterback position. A couple quarterbacks that I like this week. Taysom Hill, he's at the Atlanta Falcons. 222 passing yards, a touchdown last week. Had 45 rushing yards. Atlanta Falcons, second most fantasy points to the quarterback position. The third most rush yards allowed to quarterbacks, so that bodes well for Taysom Hill's outlook. 4 rushing touchdowns, which is tied for second most in the league, 2 quarterbacks, and the third most passing touchdowns with 28 Atlanta's allowed. So I like Taysom Hill's outlook this week. He's averaged 63 rushing yards over his last 4 starts, and Atlanta's allowed 7 quarterbacks, 39 or more rushing yards in a game this season. And the New Orleans Saints have to win. It's a must-win to get in for them, and hopes that their playoff hopes are still alive. So obviously, they're going to be out there trying to play for the victory. I like Taysom Hill. He's a great stream option this week, especially in spots where, look, Aaron Rodgers, this is why we don't play in week 18. They've already locked up the number 1 seed. Yes, they're going to go through the motions. They're going to go through the practice. They're going to get to the game time. They're going to start the game. Now, are you going to see Aaron Rodgers a full 4 quarters? I really don't think so. I think he plays a half at most, and they're going to be sitting down. So you might have to take a chance with some of these waiver guys ahead of guys like Aaron Rodgers. Maybe Dak Prescott. That game with the Philadelphia Eagles, that game's kind of irrelevant too. So Taysom Hill, must-win game for the Saints. I like him as a start. Carson Wentz at the Jacksonville Jaguars, allowed 2+ touchdowns to quarterbacks in 3 straight games, and 4 of their last 5 the Jacksonville Jaguars have. And Carson Wentz, look, he struggled last week. No practice, dealt with COVID all week. Honestly, probably still had some lingering symptoms in the game. Cleared literally Sunday morning. Cleared the protocol on Saturday. Had to be medically cleared on Sunday just to play. And I get it, he didn't look good. And a lot of players coming out of the COVID protocols and dealing with COVID in general have not looked good in their first game back. And it didn't help for Carson Wentz's sake. 148 passing yards and 1 touchdown. Really missed on a lot of throws, and they lost to the Las Vegas Raiders. But I think he bounces back this week against the Jacksonville team, which early in the season, he didn't have to do much. 180 passing yards and no touchdowns in week 10, where he just had to manage that game for them to get the victory. I think he bounces back in this one in a big way. This is a must-win game for the Indianapolis Colts. It's at the Jacksonville Jaguars. The defense has really fallen apart a little bit over the last few weeks, especially through the air. So I would be starting Carson Wentz. He's a great stream option this week. Now on to some running backs, guys that I think just in matchups are going to see a decent enough workload that you might want them in your roster. So first off, Kenneth Gainwell facing the Dallas Cowboys. Look, Miles Sanders is ruled out. Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, both of them placed on COVID. If they can't clear the protocols by the weekend, you're looking at Kenneth Gainwell being more than likely the lead rusher. Now, yes, this game's almost not meaningful. Dallas Cowboys have locked up the seed, obviously. Now, yes, there's a little shift that can take place for them. They're going to come out, like I mentioned with the Green Bay Packers, I think they're going to roll their starters out. They want to keep that momentum going, so obviously they're going to play, but I could see where the Dallas Cowboys are sitting their starters halfway through this game. So Kenneth Gainwell, I like him just because I think he's going to see a huge workload. The Philadelphia Eagles in the run-heaviest offense in football. Dallas Goedert, as well as many other players on this Eagles team, are out with COVID, so I could see Kenneth Gainwell just seeing a big workload here and enough to be a viable RB2 option based on the workload. He could have 15, 18 carries. He could have 4 or 5 receptions. And I think that's why I like him this week. He's a good pickup, and I think I would be starting him. The Dallas Cowboys pretty tough against the running back position, but they do allow a little bit of yards and things like that. And I just think the volume alone makes Gainwell an obvious pickup, considering Boston Scott and Jordan Howard if they were both to miss. LeVeon Bell versus the Carolina Panthers. No, I don't love LeVeon Bell, but He's the only healthy back at this moment on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, facing the Carolina Panthers. They're very good against running backs. LeVeon Bell, 3 carries for 5 yards. He got the 2-point conversion, and he had 3 catches for 30 yards. Why I like LeVeon Bell? He's got low-end flex appeal based on his ability to catch the pass, period. He can still catch balls out of the backfield at a high rate. Do I think he's an explosive player? Not necessarily, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, one of the highest teams at passing to the running backs. I want to say Leonard Fournette was averaging 4 to 5 receptions per game before he was injured. So I think LeVeon Bell is going to see enough workload to warrant a low-end start option at your low-end RB2 in deep leagues, and a flex-type option in deeper leagues as well. And then Jarrett Patterson at the New York Giants. This game is irrelevant, but if they don't bring back Antonio Gibson off of the COVID list this week, this game's pretty much irrelevant. I could see Jarrett Patterson leading this backfield regardless. This game is not meaningful at all. But the New York Giants stink as a football team. They've been bad over the last month and a half. Really, really bad. So Jarrett Patterson I like as a start. 12 carries for 57 yards and a touchdown. He also added 5 receptions for 41 yards. That's what he did last week. In a fill-in spot, because Antonio Gibson was on COVID, the Giants allow the 9th most fantasy points to the running back position, the 7th most yards, and they've allowed a rushing touchdown to a running back in 4 straight games. So Jarrett Patterson is a great RB2 option if you're looking in the deep leagues or looking for a running back to start heading into Week 18. This week, like I mentioned, it's just slim pickings. You're going to be looking for guys that are playing in either very meaningful matchups or in irrelevant ones, and you're looking at kind of like backups that you think are going to fill the roles and score some points. So wide receivers, Alan Lazard. He's at the Detroit Lions now. I mentioned this because I think the Green Bay Packers are going to be pulling a lot of their studs in some sort of way or fashion in this game. So I like Alan Lazard at the Detroit Lions. 6 targets, 6 catches, 72 yards and a touchdown last week. He's had a touchdown in 3 of his last 4 games. The Detroit Lions just allowed 4 touchdowns last week. The Seahawks, you saw it with DK Metcalf, obviously 3, especially in the red zone. I want to say 2 of those were in the red zone. And Adams could rest. Devontae Adams could be resting in this game to an extent. So I think I like Alan Lazard as an okay option heading into this week. I think he's going to see enough volume in a game in which it's really irrelevant for the Green Bay Packers. And the Detroit Lions, they're going to come out like every week over the last month and a half and try their hardest to win football games. And they've been putting up points, but you saw the Seahawks really put it on them last week. But they've been playing at a high level, the Detroit Lions have, for about the last month and a half football, and they come out and they want to win. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Lions win here. I wouldn't be shocked if the Green Bay Packers pull their starters halfway through the game, to be honest. By the third quarter, you could see Jordan Love. You could see the backups, and I think Lazard will still probably be out there getting some reps. So Alan Lazard, I like him as a good start option this week. KJ Osborne facing the Chicago Bears. Another meaningful matchup between the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. I think Osborne's going to see the field a whole lot. Regardless, Justin Jefferson, maybe they rest him a little bit, but more than likely they're going to roll him out there. Kirk Cousins, he's on the COVID list. If he clears the protocols, who knows to say if they're going to play him or not. Whether he plays or not, I still like KJ Osborne as a matchup. Chicago Bears have allowed 20 touchdowns to wide receivers. That's second most in the league. 5 targets, 3 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown. That's what KJ Osborne did last week. He's had 4 touchdowns in his last 5 games, and he's cleared 50-plus yards in 3 of his last 4 games. So I like him as a good wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 option this week to be starting. If you're looking to chase some fantasy points, KJ Osborne could be your man. And then Marquez Callaway is going to round out my wide receivers to add. He's at the Atlanta Falcons. They give up a lot of fantasy points to the wide receiver position, 6th most. 10 targets, 6 catches for 97 yards last week. 2 of the last 3 games, he's cleared 97 yards, and he had the 112 yards 3 games ago, and he's seeing a lot of targets, 24 targets over his last 3 games. And like I mentioned with the Saints, they're must win. So I think Taysom Hill's going to be airing the ball out a little bit. He actually looked pretty decent throwing the ball last week, not too shabby. I think his finger's starting to get a little bit better, and he's getting more comfortable. So I like Marquez Callaway this week as a good stream option if you're looking, like I said, to chase these points and chase these games for teams that really are looking to win the football game. So Marquez Callaway, he's going to round out my wide receivers on the waiver. Tight ends, I'm going to have a tight end video. I'll have your starts and sits, and I'll get into all the tight ends this week. There's not many I would be running out to pick up. You're just looking for ones to start this week. So, and then some defenses that I like stream this week. Tennessee, obviously, they're facing the Houston Texans. Tennessee has allowed 19 or fewer points in their last 4 games to their opponents. And Houston Texans, man, they play good at home, so they are at home. I could see them scoring a little bit here, but the Tennessee Titans honestly are looking to maintain that number 1 seed, so they got to win as well. So I like the Tennessee Titans defense to be streaming this week. And then the Washington football team at the New York Giants. The New York Giants just stink as a football team, especially over the last month and a half. They haven't scored any points. They've scored 13 or fewer points in all their games except one since week number 9. They scored 21. That's the most they've scored. So I like the Giant Washington football team defense to be stream option this week. So that's it. That's your short, sweet waiver wire heading into the 18th week of the NFL season. And if you're still out there playing fantasy, good luck to you. Hopefully you get that championship. If you've already won a championship, congratulations. I finished second in my big money league to my buddy, the newly crowned champion. I'm happy for him. Shout out to him. And once again, if there's any players you want to talk about, fantasy related this week, drop in the comment section. I'll be glad to give you my advice and my opinions. And while you're there, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, share, thumb, bell, and then comment. If there's any players you want to mention, like I mentioned, just shout it out. So for the first 4 downs, it's been B. Scott, and I'm out.